Welcome to The Beautiful Side of Grief, your go-to podcast if you're wanting to hear from people who have moved through heart-wrenching loss or those who are at the coalface supporting the process. It's diverse, heartwarming, though most of all it is positive and filled with go-tos that you can use yourself. I'm your host, Helen Morris, and I'm a health professional turned energy healing practitioner after I lost my only child and daughter, Tal, in a car accident in 2017. I want to use my own unique experience with loss to help you navigate your journey. You will hear from grief coaches, mediums, authors, first-hand loss accounts, plus many, many more. I'll put the links to any free resources in the episode notes. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can keep informed of each weekly episode. So now grab a pen and paper if you want to jot things down. Sit back and relax as we navigate the beautiful sides of grief. In this episode, I'm excited to be speaking to Dr Betsy Guerra, who truly lives what she speaks with her husband and children, as well as anyone else she comes into contact with. She's a trilingual licensed psychotherapist living and working out of Miami, an inspirational public speaker, and the author of Hurt2Hope, which is devoted to transforming lives and relationships. She courageously found her way through the loss of her gorgeous 3-year-old in a pool accident and the excruciating pain that followed, to see that as a new beginning and opportunity for growth and happiness. We're going to have a chat about trying to balance the needs of your children and partner during loss and how you can move from hurt to hope in a beautifully structured way. And I'd like to thank you, our listeners, for tuning into this episode, because simply without you, this podcast wouldn't be possible. So I'm grateful. I would like to welcome Dr. Betsy Guerra, also known as Better with Betsy on social media. I truly feel honored to be speaking with you today, and you're nothing short of inspirational to me. Your energy, your vibe, you're just the essence you bring to everything you do. You just got this biggest heart. I can feel it. And although we've had very different upbringings and life experiences, I feel we journeyed to the same place together in how we dealt with what I still consider the worst ever thing that happened in my life. And I imagine you probably do too. And that was the loss of both of our daughters. And then to have this sense of peace and happiness, well, I feel truly grateful for that. So thank you for taking the time to be with me today, and welcome.
Thank you, Helen. I'm so happy to be here. And I agree with everything you said. Although it was a painful experience, the joy of being able to embrace life and what is with grace and with gratitude is unsurmountable. And it really transforms others, because we embody hope. You and I embody hope for other people. And I believe that you're doing that in memory of your daughter, and she is smiling from above and very proud of you.
Thank you for that. And yes, she definitely inspired me to not just talk about doing a podcast, but actually do the doing and get it in and happening, because it's not always that easy if you want to do it right. So yes, there was a lot of effort involved, a lot of learning new processes. So I'm very, very grateful for that. Now, I heard you describe yourself as having the perfect life with your husband and 4 gorgeous children up to the time you tragically lost your wee girl. What was life like for you before? And then are you able to share that event of what happened to you?
Life was a fairy tale, Helen. It was amazing. I found the man of my dreams, my Prince Charming. I had a list of 130 things I wanted in a man, and he had everything. So I starting with him, I truly had a fairy tale. I still, it's been 15 years of marriage, and I look at him and I'm like, how did I get so lucky? I adored him, and we had these 3 beautiful, healthy children who were joyful and just full of life. And we were we were just beyond happy. Like our day-to-day was amazing, right? Like we didn't need to go on a fancy trip to have incredible memories. Like our day to day, I have videos of my husband dancing with his daughters and us playing. Like it's the pool. We have an awesome, fun backyard, and we live in Miami, so you can
Yes.
imagine we have like great weather all year round. So every day was like a holiday. It was incredible, and my husband and I'm a couples therapist also. And I did a lot of work with couples. So I was constantly trying to apply what I learned every day to my relationship and vice versa. So my house was full of radiant joy and happiness and love.
That does sound like the fairy tale. Just a little bit jealous. Oh, and then
we still have time. As long as you're alive, there's time for fairy tales.
Okay, I live in hope.
Good.
And then, it all came crumbling down with your beautiful wee one discovering her that day that you were out enjoying the pool. How was that? How, I know it's a crazy question because it's like surreal, but, I know it's a pain that so many are sharing, even now as we speak.
So we were having one of those fairy tale moments in our backyard. And that morning we had gone to Mass. It was a Sunday. We had gone to Mass, and my husband had taken the girls afterwards to buy a new grill. And I was with my son. And then we all gathered together. It was right after school started. So it was the last day where we were going to spend in the thick of the summer, if you will, in the pool. We were starting construction, so we wanted to take advantage of that. And there were family, friends that actually feel like family. So it was a perfect Miami sunny day. And suddenly I'm inside the pool and I'm talking to a friend, and she asks, "Where's Fofi?" We called my daughter Fofi. And at that moment, Helen, I guess the instinct or God, like I freaked out and I lost it, and I'm looking everywhere with hypervision and eyes and desperation, and like, where is she? And I couldn't find her anywhere until I looked next to me. There. She was right there next to me, but at the bottom of the pool. And to this day, Helen, I don't understand. I don't know what happened. Like I was there. Just a week prior, I was in a different pool, and I remember telling her she was a little respectful of the water because, ironically, because I had put her in survival classes when we moved to a house with a pool, and so she was very respectful of it. And I told her a week prior, "My love, don't be scared. Mommy's gonna take care of you." And a week later, I'm like, Mommy didn't take care of her. Like she wasn't scared. She was swimming from me to my husband, from my husband to me earlier on that day. And to this day, I don't know how it happened, what happened. In fact, the darkest times of my grief and my process have been in trying to make sense of it and imagine like I have flashbacks of something I never witnessed, and imagining her in those seconds. Like, did she think, "Where's mommy? Mommy was gonna take care of me," or what did she feel? Like, how did it happen? I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand still to this day how it happened. And I want to say, for anyone who may be feeling that, because I know sometimes we grieve the loss of that person we loved, but we're also processing and hurting because of how it happened.
Yes.
And I just want to say that at some point I made the decision of changing my question from what happened, like trying to get answers that I was never going to get.
Yes.
To what for, right? Like, what did this happen for? Like help me understand, Lord, what you want from me, and how I can continue the legacy, and keep the memory alive, and maintain my mental health, because of course in those moments of darkness you just want to die. You just want to
Yeah.
die too, and you think that you're going to lose your mind because it's unbearable, it's excruciating.
Yeah.
So
Oh gosh, I mean, I can feel that. I can feel all that emotion, and it's just, and I so get what you're saying, because I actually phoned my daughter, and it turned out to be 2 minutes before her accident. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, my phone call caused her accident. I didn't realize she was in the car driving. I was just running late, so was she. So I quickly gave her a call, because we'd promised to meet for dinner before she went off to work. And she'd actually traveled over to a nearby town and said, oh, I'm just leaving, Mum. I'll be home soon. But we'd also just shifted into a new house a few days earlier. And she was going, oh, I've just set up my bedroom. Go check out my bedroom. And I went, okay, darling, I'll see you soon. And then I knew. And then when I got home, I just knew. I just had this awful feeling, and I understand. And at first I thought, oh, what if I caused her accident? What if I did it? And then I thought, you can't go there, Helen. You can't. And I actually remember driving in my car and timing how far you drive in 2 minutes. So I knew that I didn't actually cause her accident, because that's something that I needed to make peace with myself. But it was the most dreadful feeling, and that heartache and that disbelief, and it's indescribable.
Guilt is a common feeling in this process of grief, and the idea behind guilt is this belief that we can control everything.
Yeah.
And if I wouldn't have called her at that time, if I wouldn't have said this promise of, like if, and the truth is, Helen, that if there's something I've learned with this process, is that reality is, it is what it is, right? Like reality isn't something we can control. It's not fair. It's not fair, right? Like we think, well, if I eat healthy, then I'll live a long life. And if I eat well and exercise, I'll be skinny. And if I'm a good mom, then all my kids are going to be amazing and successful. And the truth is that we have this free will, and this world is imperfect, and pain exists within it. And it's not, reality is, it's not what we have in our minds and our expectations. It simply is. So when we accept that this happened, that's why acceptance is said to be the last stage of grief. It's because when you're able to get to that place where you welcome reality exactly the way that it is, and you stop resisting and fighting it, then that's the moment where healing begins. So just as a little side note, I want to invite anybody who's listening to proactively seek acceptance. You don't have to the whole grief stages of grief are not like a thing that you go to in order, or you can proactively seek acceptance, and by literally telling yourself, okay, I accept and welcome this exactly the way that it is. And I do this every day of my life. This morning, I told my son to take the medicine for the allergies, and he didn't, because he went to play in his iPad instead. And I got to school, and I was so upset that he didn't take the medicine, because then he's sneezing. Now I have to go back home, take the medicine, come back. I'm going to be late for work. So I'm super frustrated. And I kept telling myself, like, I accept this exactly the way it is. I accept this exactly the way it is. I accept it. So this is helpful, not just in an excruciating process as grief may be, but also in the day-to-day. And acceptance, what it does is it frees you from all this energy that you're investing in fighting reality. And last time I checked, every time we fight against reality, we lose.
Such a good point.
So,
Yeah. Sorry, Betsy.
No, please.
But I'm really grateful that you brought that up, because there are so many people that I follow and help through some grief pages and things like that, and grief groups, that struggle so much with this concept of guilt and not being able to have controlled the outcome that occurred. And exactly like you say, Betsy, it's something that just is. This is the way this was supposed to play out. And there's nothing we can do to change that. And trying to think that we can change that can almost send us crazy, I think.
Absolutely.
Because it just plays over and over in our head. But the thing is, it's happened. We can't go back. We have to move forward. And so moving forward into acceptance and forgiveness is the key to it, I believe, because, you don't even have to forgive anybody else around you. You just have to forgive yourself, for how you feel and what has happened, and that there was nothing that you could do, and that's okay. And I think that we're very, very tough on ourselves. We think that we could have done more than we actually could have. And I know that plagues people. And this is what amazes me about you and your family, because I watched this beautiful clip and you are all reminiscing about that day. And I can see the pain. I can hear the pain. I can see the tears. I can see the hurt. I can see the heartache. I can see all of that. And then you just flip it all around. And the next thing, you're all laughing and you're smiling. And I think that is the key to it, is able to be still able to feel all those emotions, but get that balance where we can also be allowed to bring joy and happiness into our life. So, I want you to just share with us the beautiful experience that you had whilst you were ensconced in your walk-in wardrobe, and just to escape it all. And then you had the priest join you. And I recall your husband asking the question, will there ever be happiness again? And what did the priest say?
So just to give a little context, this was the day after losing my daughter, and we were hiding in our walk-in closet. It wasn't a small closet. We were comfortable. We were sitting on the floor, but there was a lot of people in my house, and I was overwhelmed. I didn't want to entertain, host, or talk to anybody or see anybody. So I was just there. And the priest that baptized my kids, who we love dearly, came to see us, and we welcomed him into the closet. He sat with us on the floor. And my husband, who had already experienced this numbness, pain, darkness, and who was used to a fairy tale life, but we couldn't see the light. Like at the moment, we couldn't even imagine ourselves smiling again. So his question to this guy who has seen other people go through this experience was, is it possible to be happy again? Are we ever going to be happy again? And the priest said, some people are and some people are not. The people who are never happy again are those who honor their child through tears and suffering. They believe that the more they cry and the more they suffer, the more they loved. They equate love to suffering. And the people that are happy again are those who honor their loved one through gratitude, service, and love. They choose other ways of remembering or keeping the memory alive, of showing that love. And I will tell you, Helen, it's a lot harder to do that than it is to suffer. It's really easy to honor our loved one through suffering, and that's not for them. That's for ourselves. And it's also a lack of courage, if I may. And I know I'm being very daring in saying this, but it's hard. It's hard to get out of bed. It's hard to smile. Something was smiling. I would look at myself in the mirror and I would say, will I ever see my smile again?
Yes.
It's hard. But so that's why I think it's so special to honor our loved one through service and grace and gratitude and just paying it forward and bringing hope to the people around us, because it's hard. So, and what has more meaning in life? The things that came easy and that came naturally, or the things that we had to push through and like really have like grit and persevere in the process. So, and besides, I have to tell you that I've learned that love is not equal to pain and suffering. In fact, I must distinguish between pain and suffering, because pain is inevitable, and there's a quote that says, "Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional."
I love that quote.
I know. Pain is inevitable because we're human and we're attached to people and things, and when we lose something or someone we loved, we hurt. Like, it hurts. Like, so the pain is inevitable, but pain is not bad. And we've been taught in society that pain is bad. Anything that doesn't feel good is bad. So you push back on it, you avoid it. Besides, our brains are wired that way. If you touch something pinchy or hurtful, you're going to immediately move out away from that. And that's our brain trying to protect us. But physical pain is one thing because it's alerting us to be careful. There's danger coming. But emotional pain is not the same. The only way around emotional pain is through. If we go through the pain, if we don't sit with it, if we don't welcome it, if we don't embrace it as the healing path, then we never overcome it. So suffering is pain without hope. Suffering is when we've made pain the destination, not the path. When we've escaped pain, and as a consequence, then the pain becomes deeper and stronger, and then harder to heal, right? So if we understand that it's okay to sit with the pain and feel it, but we know that that's the process, not the destination, and we know it's healing us in the meantime. I always say that pain is a fertilizer. What are fertilizers made of?
Poop.
They're made of poop, right?
Yeah.
It feels like crap, and it looks like it, and it's horrible. It sucks, but it fertilizes us, it heals us, it nourishes, it strengthens us, helps us grow. And the woman that I am today, I owe to the excruciating pain I've gone through because of losing my daughter. And I'm grateful for that. And you just said that so beautifully and gracefully. And I know people can't see that at the beginning, and I would have sent someone somewhere else. Like, I don't want to curse here, but I would have sent someone to a not so nice, pleasant place if they would have told me, like, yeah, embrace pain, Betsy. Like, screw you, because you're not the one feeling it, right? Yeah. But the reason I dare to say this to you, listener, who may be experiencing the raw pain of loss, is because I have been in your shoes. Yeah. So I'm not speaking from the therapist perspective or the spiritual. I'm speaking from the human, raw, painful, vulnerable perspective. And I just want you to know, like, that this thing that you're going through is temporary and it's meant to heal you. So we are not to waste it. We ought to embrace it and feel it and sit with it so that we may get rid of it.
Such a great analogy, Betsy, that poop fertilizer one. I love that because people can relate to that. Yes, because I don't know. Did you come up with that? Because that is perfect.
I heard something similar. Similar, and I gave it my touch.
Yeah. Well, I think that's such a good thing, because I think that is also the feeling that I had afterwards. It's just that horrible pain, and then being able to grow from that. And that is what, like, I have to share with you that my life, and I'm tearing up here, my life, ironically, has never been better because I allowed myself to use the loss of my beautiful girl to move through those things that I needed to move through that pain. And out of that pain, I've gained courage, I've gained strength, I've allowed myself to truly be who I am. And that's been incredible. And I would never have thought that I could feel like I feel today, because I'd never had that feeling before in my life. And like you say, I'm grateful for that experience. It was the toughest one in my life, and I would never wish it upon anybody. But if you do have to suffer it, then there can be some amazing things come from it if you're prepared to sit with that pain and move with it.
So Helen, you're a testament that pain is hope. Pain is hope, because maybe you were experiencing pain throughout your life and you were escaping it, or you were not paying attention to it. And this time it was like, oh, okay, this one I can't escape, impossible. And you allowed yourself to sit with it and to feel it. And what's come out of you is beautiful. I don't know how you were before, but I'm so attracted to your spirit and your grace and your energy and your courage. And you're such a beautiful, peaceful human being that you say that, and I can't even imagine you not being this way. So you have light and this shine, you radiate, I have to say. So
I was full of a lot of anger and resentment and jealousy and probably a bit of bitterness, all those really good emotions that really trip people up and they carry around like heavy baggage all their lives. I was carrying a lot of that, and I didn't know how to be happy, but I learned that through my girl, because she was so funny. She was so funny. She was crazy. She was brave. She was a leader. She would stand up for the underdog. And I remember, at 10 years old, this incident where she came home and told me she'd kicked her friends out of the AV room. And I was going, oh, how did they feel about that, darling? And she was going, well, they weren't doing what they should have been doing, so they had to go. And I went, oh, what a brave, courageous soul you are to be able to do that and not worry about how it was going to affect your relationship with your friends, which so many of us get hung up on. And so it was through the lessons I learned how to be a better mom, a kinder mom, a more gentle mom. I was such a soloist. and she taught me to care and to love. And so those are the things I hold on to, because without her in my life, I would not have had those experiences. And yes, I had to lose her, but then she's taken me, okay, Mom, you're ready. You're going to the next level now. We've got through all that other stuff. Now let me take you to where it truly is the most magical feeling. And every day I will be grateful for that.
Mm-hmm. So she continues to guide you. How beautiful.
Yeah, she does. So I see that happening with you and your relationships. Like I see that with your beautiful eldest daughter, who I know was, from the clips that you've shared, was so incredibly close to Filthy. And that must have been as heartbreaking for her as it was for you and your husband. And your other siblings were a little bit younger, and but she was old enough to really understand. And then I heard her talking, and she was speaking with such grace and such dignity. And I just know that maybe there is a listener here wondering how they can navigate that with their own children.
Well, pain in general, and in this case, grief, is an opportunity, right? And in our case, I knew that I was responsible for my daughter. And, when you're a mom, You care more about the pain of your children than you do about your own. But when you're disabled almost by grief, it's hard to implement that, right? And I think awareness is is the important factor here, Helen. Just being aware of where you're at and what is important for you. And I remember thinking, because I'm I I have a doctorate in psychology, in clinical psychology, and I've been a therapist for many years. I have my private practice. Since I knew of other families that had gone through these kinds of tragedies and they had almost neglected or abandoned the other children, and I had heard those other children say, like, I didn't just lose my sister, I lost my parents too because they stopped parenting me. I remember having that thought and being, I am not going to be that parent. And I am going to continue to guide my children. And the awareness of what what I was doing and when allowed me to make decisions. And sometimes like it was blurry and it was harder to see. But for the most part, I had a North Star. I had clarity as to what I wanted. And the one thing I didn't want was to die for my children, to die while alive.
Yes,
So I
yes.
was mindful and intentional about supporting them, about talking to them openly. One of the things that I've spoken to my extended family about nowadays that they found to be very healing, and I just learned about it 7 years later, was that I was very open. I would talk about Fofi anytime you wanted. I would bring her up. They would ask. I would never be like, I don't want to deal with that. I want to talk about that. Never. I was
Yeah.
always open because that was my way of honoring her and bringing her to life. So I would talk to my kids about her. Whenever my daughter would tell me I miss her, I would say I miss her too, and we would cry together. Whenever she asked, like, mommy, like, why are you crying? I wouldn't say I have allergies or I have something in my eyes. I would say I'm crying because I miss your sister. And I think in doing so, I modeled for her that it's okay. It's okay to feel. It's okay to have that pain. It's okay to miss. But at the same time, I was mindful of not spending all day in bed, curled up in a ball and crying because she wasn't to be responsible for my well-being, and I was mindful of that, right? So I think understanding that, yes, you get to be compassionate with yourself and stay in bed the days that you can't get out, and be kind with yourself when you can't do the things that you typically can do effortlessly, but make an effort. Make
Yes.
an effort with your child, with your spouse, with your friends. Like, listen, there were times that I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to do anything. I felt like I was a Debbie Downer, always like sad, always depressed, and I felt very inadequate in the process. So if there were times that I didn't want to go out with friends, that I didn't want to be intimate, I couldn't be the mom that I knew I could be, I would ask for help. And there's nothing wrong with asking for help. I think a lot of people are waiting in line to lend you a hand, even people you don't know, because keep in mind that many times the people that supported the most are the ones that we're not expecting it from. And in regards to relationship, not just the children, Helen, but my husband. Like I
Yes.
mentioned before, I treasured my marriage beyond belief. And one of my life goals is to model for my children a beautiful fairy tale relationship so that they may choose naturally a person that's going to be good for them, healthy, make them a better version of themselves, and help them elevate their lives. And every single day, my husband and I grieve differently. He's very practical. I'm more of like every sign works for me. He was more like skeptical. He needed like facts, right? And I would watch videos and pictures, and he couldn't, right? So we were very different in the way that we grieved. But every single night we would gather together, and our intimacy at the time wasn't as much sexual as it was in sharing this grief, this process with each other. And we would sit on the bed and we would talk about, how was your day? And, I knew that he was crying all day in the office. And he went from crying like, all these sadness tears to cracking up because his coworker came and said a joke and the guy's super funny, right? So my husband healed through humor. That's what helped him. Humor helped him heal. And I healed through signs and like faith. And I'm a woman of faith and I believe in God wholeheartedly. So learning to believe in heaven, that heaven truly existed was very healing for me. And every night we would gather and we would talk about it. And there were times that I didn't feel like being intimate and I would still make it a point to be intimate. And it's interesting because I had a couple in therapy who shared that they lost a daughter also, and the husband wanted to be intimate and engage in sexuality the day of the funeral. And the wife was insulted. She was like, he's so selfish. This is ridiculous. Like, I just buried my daughter. How could you? And when we realized the reason why he wanted to be intimate is because they weren't the touchy-feely kind of couple. So the only time that she would hold him and hug him and show him like compassion was in bed. So when he asked for that intimacy, he wasn't asking for sex. He was asking for an embrace. Wow. So being mindful of what that can represent is important. Like a week after losing my daughter was my anniversary, my 8-year anniversary, and we went out. We celebrated with a dinner. It was the most solemn dinner we've ever been to, and we cried throughout the entire time. But we made a mindful effort of celebrating our lives and understanding that you still have other people that love you and you love, that everybody's, the universe is watching, not just children. If you don't have other children, it doesn't matter. The universe is watching, and there's someone looking at you, feeling your pain with empathy and waiting to see if it's possible for you to overcome it. And you are modeling that for that person that you don't even know. You have no idea, Helen, how many people would come to me and tell me like, I admire you, or I'm praying for you, or all these things. And I didn't know them, but they knew about my story because of the news, because of the community, because of school, whatever. They knew about me and they were watching. And now those very people are going through a divorce, or they're going through like a diagnosis, or they've lost their jobs, and they look at me and they say, I can do this. I can overcome this because Betsy overcame that. Yes. So you have, like, you listener, you have a responsibility with the universe because you were brought here to make this place a better place. Just like your daughter Helen made you a better woman and are making us better right now through you. So keep in mind that it's not like, okay, well, Betsy had other kids to live for and she had an amazing husband, and this other person had a great community. And we can come up with all the excuses in the world as to why you and not me. But you were created for greatness. You're unique, you're special, and this is not happening to you. Like Tony Robbins says, it's not to you, it's for you. This is happening for you. You don't understand it now. You don't need to understand it now. I just want you to know that there's light, I promise. There's light. There's light on the other side.
Yes. Because I know from this, I got introduced to like a powerful modality of energy healing and, to help me heal myself. And I really love the insights you shared earlier, Betsy, about talking. I talk about my girl all the time. She was such a huge part of my life, and that does not end overnight. So I'm going to talk about her. She's going to be important. She's, I have memories of her that I can still share, and I'm happy to share. And that actually made it easier for other people to speak about her, especially her friends. Her friends were trying to navigate this too. So if they could laugh and share these stories about her, then it was incredible. So that enabled me to be able to open the conversation up with them, to see how they were feeling, to see how they were coping, because everybody is different. Like you said, there's, no right or wrong way to do this, except perhaps the key thing I think I'm getting from what you're saying is communicate, share how you are feeling, model what you want others to be doing, especially your children, so that they can feel that they can openly share. And your husband, yes, because there are so many couples who feel stuck, who are actually growing apart through these events because they don't maybe recognize or have awareness of each other's way of grieving.
Something that comes up a lot, and I don't think I've ever heard someone say this, so I want to share it. Pain or suffering, I should say, is very self-centered. When we are consumed by pain, we have no energy or time or nothing left for anything else. When we're consumed by pain, that's all we see, that's all we feel, that's all we think about. It's a ruminating experience in our lives. And I hear my couples that go through this say I don't feel good, I don't want to be intimate, or I don't want to talk about it, or I don't feel it's all about me. It's very self-centered because it consumes you. There's no space for anything else. So when you mindfully decide to change your focus and look at that person that you love and acknowledge that person's presence here, physical presence and spiritual presence here in your life, then you have the opportunity to serve that person, to do something kind for that person, to be grateful for that person. And gratitude, service are two experiences that cannot coexist with suffering. So if you engage in gratitude and in service, you cannot be depressed. They can't coexist. So mindfully engaging in those activities or opportunities will free you from suffering eventually. It's a process, right? I remember the first time that I created a foundation in memory of my daughter, and the first time I did that, I came back from doing my act of kindness, angry and envious, at least she has her son alive, even though he is sick and has all these difficulties. And I didn't feel good about it, but I was in a raw pain. And I hadn't made the decision of or maybe I hadn't gone through the process, right? I had made the decision because I had decided to do what I knew was the way that I wanted to honor my daughter through service. But the effect of it didn't come immediately, right? When I say they can't coexist, they can't. But at that moment, suffering was more powerful than service, right? Yes. So suffering took over, and I just want you to look at yourself. This is not you. This is not you. This is a season that you're going through. So if you could be an observer for a second and observe your emotions, your actions, your thoughts, then you'll have the opportunity to change them and to alter them in a way that serves you and your family or your loved ones.
That segues so nicely, Betsy, into us talking about your book, which you've just launched, Hurt2Hope, because that truly is a way that people can navigate this, isn't it? Because, I love how the first module talks about the feelings, feel the feelings, don't try and cover them up or hide them or suppress them. feel what you are actually experiencing. And then you can start to move.
Exactly.
And so share with us what that book is all about, because I'm really excited about that.
So Helen, I have both a book and an online program titled Hurt2Hope. The book is Hurt2Hope, and it's Heal the Pain of Grief, Loss, and Adversity. And it's on Amazon by Dr. Betsy Guerra. If you want to look at it, you look for it by name. And this was, I didn't want to write this book. And when I say clearly, it's because when you've worked so much on healing, you don't want to go back to the raw pain to relate it to someone else, right? But I said earlier, I'm a woman of faith, and when God or my daughter, spiritually asks me for something, I obey. And this book was that, right? Like it was me obeying and listening to what I thought she wanted or what I thought God wanted from me. And I started this book over 2 years ago, and it took me over 2 years to complete because I had to relive every bit of the pain to be able to narrate it or share it with the reader. And I cried and I was depressed and I was a zombie at times. And my husband would beg me to stop for a little bit. And then I would go. I was traumatized by this experience. But when your purpose is greater than the pain, you push through. And the idea of this book is it's a 2-part book. The part 1 is my pain. The reason I don't do a book talking about, like the 5 stages of grief or anger and guilt and sadness, and instead of doing that, I just told my story. And the idea of telling my story was to allow the reader to connect with whatever relatable feelings I expressed or whatever relatable stories. My experience was that when I read grief books, they would say, and then you feel this and you're going to feel that, and this is what's normal. And I was like, instead of giving me hope, I was like, what? I still go through all of that? But I don't think I can even push through with these things that I'm going through. So the idea of sharing my story, in addition to keeping my daughter's memory alive and sharing myself with the world, I wanted the reader to be able to connect with his or her pain and to know that it's okay and that you're not alone, and it's okay. It's okay to feel. So it's very raw at the beginning. A lot of people have skipped to part 2 and then come back because they feel it's too much. It's painful. You feel the pain. I did my best to give you my everything, to give myself. And then part 2 is hope. And the reason part 2 is not joy, it's Hurt2Hope, not hurt to joy, is because when you're hurting, Helen, joy seems too far away.
Yes.
But hope, okay, I can have hope that it can be better, that it can be less painful. But happiness, joy, what is that? You're crazy and I don't want to have anything to do with you because I don't connect with you. Yeah. And hope, the part of hope in the book is it's also it's in story format, but it's all the clinical and spiritual tools that helped me go from hurt to hope. Because everybody would tell me, Betsy, I know you were in pain because I went to that retreat that you were at and I saw it. I saw your pain. And I know you're happy because, my gosh, you're so high energy and you're so joyful and you exude it. But how? How do you go from excruciating pain to unbelievable joy? And this is the how. Part 2 is the how, and it incorporates my clinical backgrounds. I've been, doing psychotherapy for 20 years. It incorporates my spirituality and incorporates my experience and that of my clients. So I give not just examples. That's why the book is not just for the loss of a loved one, but it's for divorce, it's for the loss of your health, for the loss of a job or your life as you knew it. And during COVID times, we've all gone through loss in one way or another. We're all grieving in one way or another. So this book is for all of that. And I give examples of people who have experienced addictions, divorce, like all these different situations that are not necessarily mine, but my clients, to just bring hope and let you know that this is not the end. This is just a path. This is just a path.
Oh my gosh, so, so, so powerful. Betsy, gosh, I can just feel the value listeners are going to get from hearing you talk from your heart, and know that, they can too get to that place of joy and happiness that you're at now, and that there is a way to navigate through that, and there's resources. So I'll put the link to your book on Amazon. I'll put that in our episode notes, so anybody wanting to find that can just go and have a look there. We're running out of time, darling. We've had this most amazing chat, and it's been absolutely fabulous. And there's still so much more I want to ask you. But I think what we'll finish up with is, what was the best thing that happened to you today?
This right here. This moment is the best thing that happened to me today.
Oh,
because this is how I honor my daughter.
Wow. Thank you. It's an absolute privilege to be able to have you share with us and your daughter. Oh, okay. So you're having a really rubbish day. What's your go-to for coping with when things turn to custard?
Mine is my faith. And, it could be, for me, it's faith in God. But when I say faith, I mean faith in God, faith in yourself and your ability and resilience to be able to overcome this, faith in other people, that they may hold you and hold space for you when you feel you can't carry on any longer. Faith in the process, know that there's a reason why pain is the path, and if you trust that this pain is healing and fertilizing you, then it's easier to surrender and to welcome it and to allow it to heal you. So faith, just have faith.
Yeah. Beautiful. And 3 quick takeaways for our listeners.
Pain is a fertilizer, so embrace it. It's the path, not the destination. Number 2, acceptance is not a stage that you arrive at passively. It's something that you can proactively seek and attain. And the 3rd one would be practice gratitude and service, because gratitude and service cannot coexist with depression.
So good, because that's actually how I moved through. I just started, every time I had a dark day, blue day, I flipped it and thought, what am I grateful for today in this moment? What am I grateful for? And sometimes it was just actually getting myself out of bed. It was as simple as that. Gratitude. What am I grateful for? And people used to think I was crazy. What do you mean? How can you go through this and be grateful? And when I said, because that's the thing that gets me up every single day, is that I have to know that I'm grateful for so much. So, yeah. So, Betsy, my heartfelt thanks for joining myself and our listeners today. The insights you have shared are so incredibly powerful, meaningful, relevant, and I feel that people are going to listen to this and know that they definitely can move from hurt to hope. And so thank you for inspiring us. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Just a big, huge, heartfelt thank you.
Thank you, Helen. And keep at it. Keep serving and keep bringing hope to the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode today, feel free to share it with others. Hit the subscribe button so you can be notified of each weekly episode. Also, rate and review, especially if there is more you want to know that perhaps we didn't have time to touch on today. And if you are after resources to help you out on this journey, head to healingtobeyou.com and check those out there. So until next time, be kind to you, and thank you for joining us on the beautiful side of grief.